This may be taken as a prelude to my further discussions on the prescribed text called The Beast in the Closet. This is basically for my students who have opted for the gender paper. Now, Eve Kosofsky Sedgwick actually is very crucial insofar as she challenged in her books some of the dearly held notions of the gay community, or we can say LGBTQ community itself, and not only of the heterosexual world, which of course in any case will be there. So uh, one of the very important concepts that we'll have to discuss in our elaborations on the prescribed essay is that of the closet. Now, the literal meaning of closet is known to all, but from 1960s onward, in English, being in the closet or being closeted also started increasingly to refer to the homosexual persons who could not come into terms with his homosexuality. I mean, come into terms in the sense of coming into terms with it before the public, because there was a lot of censure. Even now it continues, but then things have changed for the better. But for this kind of societal pressure, perception which prioritized heterosexuality over homosexuality, many people could not come out into the open, and they chose to remain confined so far as their sexual self is concerned. It is not that they were literally in the closets, but their sexual orientation was closeted, which in itself is a violence and very inhumane. But then the main point, two main points that I have chosen for discussion today from Sedgwick are this. First of all, she believes or she argues that this homo-hetero divide is at the root of, I mean, all Western discourses about social organization, institution, everything. It is, very similar to what the gender theorists say about men-women divide, or Derrida would say about the signified thing, meaning, arbitrariness of meaning. In a similar way, uh, she says, Kosofsky says that this division between heterosexual and homosexual is, she says, I quote, so permeative, uh, has the suffusing strain of homo-heterosexual crisis been, that to discuss any of these indices, that is, knowledge, ignorance, masculine, feminine, majority, minority, public, private, etc., she gives a long list of more than 20 such binaries. In any context, in the absence of an anti-homophobic analysis, must perhaps be to perpetuate unknowingly compulsions implicit in each. That is, without deconstructing or doing away with the binary between the heterosexual and homosexual, we cannot successfully undo the binaries that are well known to us between men, women, or ignorance, knowledge. All this, there is a, everywhere there is a kind of orientational binary, you know, behind all this. That is the argument of Butler. Obviously, we can say this is largely influenced by Foucault's finding that the sodomite was just an aberration, but then aberration means an act, a different act. But the homosexual from the 19th century, the construction of the homosexual identified a group of persons entirely on the basis of their sexuality. So there was a pathologization. So from that, all discourses have been influenced by that. If I make it explicit further, why is it so problematic for society? Because this homosexuality conflates the societal perception between men and women, which is at the root of our society's function, marriage, procreation, etc. But this sexuality actually turns over the concept. A man may play woman's role, what is concerned to be, constituted or seen as a woman's role by typical societal view, and vice versa. That is why it is problematic. So, if we just think a little, we'll find the truth in the argument of Sedgwick that the entire Western discourse, and we may add from our point of view non-Western also, because due to colonization, Western values percolated down to non-Western societies' lowest levels also. So this is the first thing that I want to point out regarding Sedgwick, that this homo-hetero binary is at the root of all Western institutions, social organization, etc. Now, second point is she went against the majoritarian stance of the gay activists or LGBTQ activists, we can say with hindsight, in so much as those kind of activism still her time was more or less based on a minoritarian discourse, that the homosexuals or gays or lesbians are a minority community which have to be defended, etc. Now she says that it is absolutely wrong to identify people on the basis of sexual orientation, because orientation is very fluid. It is not, this clean kind of division that homosexual minority versus heterosexual majority. There is a kind of spectrum. So for that, she said, there are two kinds of views that prevailed regarding sexual orientation before her. One is that essentialist view, what I have just referred to, that homosexuals are like that, essentially homosexual and all that. And there was a constructionist view, those who believe that homosexuality is a kind of societal construction. Actually, there is nothing inherent in it as a term as well as a practice, which can be radically different from other forms of sexuality. But among these two positions, she is definitely in favor of constructionists, but then she stretches it still further, that we have to understand this binary between hetero and homosexual, and then finally go beyond that and see sexuality as a matter of wide, varied choice, or spectrum of choices rather. So these two are her very valuable conceptions. Now, further arguments from epistemology of the closet also centers around the precariousness of disclosure of sexual identity. She gives an example from a Canadian teacher, school teacher actually, who in modern times, before this gay liberation or gay friendly acts were passed in the West, Canada, etc., he just came out in a public forum that he is gay, and then he was fired from his job. He went to court, to a lower court first of all. There actually he lost the case. Then he appealed to a higher court. Interestingly, the higher court upheld his removal from job, not because he has come out as homosexual, but because he had suppressed the fact that he was a homosexual while applying for the job. So see this kind of contradiction. It is like the proverbial, wolf and the lamb story, that in any case you have to be in the receiving end if you, withhold a sexual, if you kind of come out with a sexuality which is not recognized by society. But not so much of a problem unless and until you make it public. So this kind of double standard also is problematic. Now, and then the fourth important point, or rather theme from Sedgwick that I want to discuss is that of the homosexual panic. Along with the pathologization of the homosexuals as a category, there was also an increased trend in Europe and America of so-called gay bashing. Just like, as feminists say, women are beaten up, women are tortured by men, etc. It's a generalization. Not all women are beaten up by all men, but cases happen. Sometimes reverse also may happen. So this kind of thing, heterosexuals being beaten up by homosexuals being beaten up by heterosexuals, even murdered at some point, is known as gay bashing. We haven't seen much of that in India, but we have our corollaries like honor killing for marrying from the same clan or go through like that. So it is a matter of differences rather here in uh, kind, not in degree so much, you can say. Now we have to understand this, that whenever this kind of gay bashing and all took place, and when the perpetrator of the action was brought to judgment, you would argue that he was panicked by the homosexual person's advances, behavior, etc., which again very dangerously sort of tried to establish this kind of an epistemology that all homosexual or gay men make advances towards straight men, and then in any case whatever they do, they deserve to be beaten up, if need be killed. So this kind of atrocity. So that is what is meant by the homosexual panic, you know related to gay bashing and killing. I think with this background, especially that of the homosexual panic and the closet, which are the two main tropes of the chapter prescribed for us, you will find it easier to understand that. Because without this kind of background about Sedgwick, suddenly from the middle, the beast in the closet, it will be difficult to explain and understand. Now, in our next lecture, we'll discuss that. Thank you.